Well, hello, 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 my loves. You know, we've talked a lot about different things on this podcast. This is all about tools. The one thing I've always found, though, is your environment plays a huge role into how successful you are. And some people, I have met them. I have some really good friends that if I would look at their desk, I would come unglued. I would not be able to work that way. I would not be able to function. And it's like, oh my gosh, no. And then I have other friends that have just nothing on their desk. I'm like, well, where's your pen? Where's your notebook? Where's the feel? If you can get as confused as me sometimes about how things are set up to make yourself the most successful and how your workspace is meant to be, how you can gain that kind of control back in your life, especially if you work from home. I think this is huge when you work from home because you have your home life, you have your family life, and then you also have your work life kind of smushed together. Well, I needed a solution, and I know you need a solution. So I've invited Krystal Holm. Now, I don't know if you know that name, but Crystal's a Feng Shui designer and a clutter expert. And her big thing is she helps work from home entrepreneurs declutter and design those workspaces that empower them to create the life and business they want. She has a whole proprietary framework called the Design Life Method, and it's about mind, body, soul, home. It's all inclusive. You can't just put one thing against the other and not look at it all. And so today we're going to chat and we're going to talk about how, as introverts, sometimes our workspace is important. We're going to come up with a couple of little things that you can maybe do straight away to make yourself feel more empowered, but also give you the insight to how you can learn more and grow more. So, hi, Crystal. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. I'm so excited to get to be here with you today.
So good. Well, hopefully I didn't miss out too much because I know you do a lot of things to help people. And as I was saying, I have friends that I look at their desk and I almost want to puke because it's covered. It's literally covered from corner to corner. Can't see an inch of the desk. And it's just random stuff. But that's how their mind operates. So it works for them. Oh, that's what they tell me. And then I have other people that just there's so many different people and so many different ways to function. How did you get into How did you get into this whole design and feng shui and the way to design workspaces and life to be most productive for most people? Because everyone is so different and so varied.
Well, I think I was always going to be a designer, right? I think that just sort of runs in my blood, right? From the time I was a little girl, I was playing with Barbie Dream House and decorating my room and then decorating my friends' rooms and, went to college to be an interior designer. And then I sort of discovered feng shui when I was in school. Um, it was in my psychology class, and I had to write a paper on something related to my field of study and psychology. So I sort of came into feng shui a little differently than most people do. Um, and uh, and then as I went on into my career and became an interior designer, um, there was a few years into my career that I actually was sort of handed a client. um, I had I'd never really worked with a client before as far as, like, from the feng shui side of things. I had only ever tried to apply it to my own life to try to, like, figure it out, and it was shortly after I started working in my dream job that they'd had a client that they had submitted the designs to, and the client sent the designs back saying that they couldn't accept it because the feng shui was all wrong, and it was an international client. They were from China, so they were very familiar with feng shui. And my boss pulled together the entire design team and wanted to know if anybody could help because she knew nothing about feng shui or how to fix it. And I was actually the only person to volunteer. um, at which point I will say that the imposter syndrome kicked in because I had no idea what the client knew about feng shui, but I knew that I still didn't know as much as, I wanted to know. And so I really did fall in love with doing both the design and the feng shui part of things. And so I actually decided to go back to school to study feng shui and to learn it, how to do it the right way, because there was so much confusing information out there just trying to piece it together from a bunch of books. So I went to school to study feng shui for a number of years, and at the same time I was sort of on a personal development, I don't want to say kick. I was just on a personal growth journey. I was healing from a lot of trauma that I have been through in my life. And and I was studying feng shui, and I was working with a group of women, and I just sort of needed some like guinea pigs to practice on. And so I started working with them to help them like very specifically use feng shui to apply it to their life to help them find love. We were all sort of in this space on our healing journeys where we were looking to create relationships in our lives. And so I really started using it more like focused, not just this generalized thing, but a very intentional creating your space in order to manifest a very specific result out of it, like turning it into a 3D vision board kind of thing. And so that was sort of where I started. Let's just say that.
Okay, you just said you turn your space into a 3D vision board. I just caught that. Okay, how would you turn your space into a 3D vision board? That sounds like captivating.
Well, it kind of comes back to what ended up becoming my method, the design life method. I really, one of the things I had learned growing up all was about, the law of attraction and manifesting and magic, right? For lack of a better word, right? Creating a different life out of the one that you had, right? And how do you do that, right? How do you make that happen? It was just one of those things that I sort of studied for fun, right? Because I wanted to know how to manifest the life that I wanted. And when I started applying feng shui, it was very intentional about what are the results? Like what are we trying to get into alignment with? Right? Because if we're out of alignment with our space, it's going to create a misalignment in our life. But the same thing is true when we get out of alignment with our life, right? It reflects in our space. And so for me, that was sort of where I was in kind of the learning curve, right? Becoming the master at it, right? Mastering my craft, but also just being able to create this space that reflects not just the life that I want to have, but the person that I want to be that has that that life.
I'm liking this whole alignment thing because the one thing I talk about a lot is introverts do not have to fake it till they make it. They can like,
Hey, make it till you make it.
me too. It drives me crazy. Like, hey, by the way, I just want me to pretend to be someone else and then you'll do okay. No, there's only one of you, and the world deserves the best you there is. Not a fake, not a masked, not a someone who's not there. And you're talking about things being in alignment with their life and within their workspace. What kind of things can people do within their work area to help create that alignment? Can you give me one little tip that they can do right now that will help them align themselves a little bit more?
Sure. I always across the board with every client, we start with decluttering. Because one of the things that you have to do in order to create this sort of 3D vision board is you have to design for who you are becoming, not for who you are right now. And so part of that process is to give yourself a clean slate to work from, which means we have to declutter out all of what is keeping you stuck, and not just the physical, it's the physical, mental, and emotional clutter that is stagnating the flow of energy in your space and in your body. And so always we start with decluttering. And that would be my suggestion as to where to start.
Oh my gosh, absolutely declutter. Get rid of everything. It's like I was reading, what was it? The Marie Kondo when she was big a couple of years back. The Magica Tidy, where she has you hug everything and say, "Does it bring you joy?" I'll be honest, that kind of felt a little off.
Yeah, her method doesn't really work, and I actually have a I I'm getting ready to launch YouTube pretty soon. I just made a video about why Marie Kondo's method doesn't work, as a matter of fact. It doesn't. It quite simply it doesn't. It requires you to, if you want to declutter, it requires you to look at the clutter, right? Marie Kondo only focuses on what's not clutter. And so that does not help you in any way to declutter. You have to actually focus on the clutter itself. I have my own proprietary method as part of the design life method, my decluttering method. I call it declutter your mindset because clutter is a reflection of everything that you believe about yourself, really.
So, okay, I'm going to ask because
Mhm.
maybe this is a question some people are listening and they get is she focuses on things that are not clutter, but it's actual clutter. What makes something clutter? What is actually, because other people, like I was saying in the beginning, I can look at a friend's desk and go, oh my gosh, no, this is just all clutter. But they're like, no, every single little thing has a need, a meanings, a step. So what actually makes something clutter?
I actually think that's pretty simple to define. Not so much simple to do anything else after that, but I define clutter as anything you do not need, use, or love.
Okay, that's actually pretty simple. You do not need it, you do not use it, you do not love it. Gotta go.
Well, that's like step 5. Yeah, we skipped all of the other steps, but yeah, we skipped through 1 through 4 and went straight to 5. But yeah,
Yeah, we do things fast sometimes.
yeah, but that's why the Marie Kondo method doesn't work because she skips over steps 1 through 5 too, or 1 through 4.
Ah, yeah.
Um, and goes straight to uh, just get rid of it. Um, but she doesn't actually listen to the clutter, and she doesn't actually learn anything from the clutter about what the clutter has to tell you about why you're stuck. Um, and so that's yeah, you can't skip straight to the end game without going through the other 4 steps. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to repeat that, right? And you're going to continue. It's sort of like if you've ever gone on a diet and lost like 10 pounds and then you turn around and promptly gain back 20, the same thing is true for your clutter. And so if you try to you know, do this method like and just get rid of it, just go straight to oh, get rid of it because it doesn't spark joy, you're going to gain back your 20 pounds. Um
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Now, so I like to look at magazines and Pinterest. Like those are like two of my favorite places. Like I go on Pinterest and I go on that scroll, like, oh, how do I want my office to be? And it's always like, oh, that's pretty, that's pretty. But it's not always functional.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about the Feng Shui as well, because I know that that can impact many areas of life subconsciously, energy wise, and everything like that. We're talking about introverts that struggle with quite a few areas of business sometimes because it requires almost an extroverted mindset in some places, unless they lean into their strengths.
Mhm.
How would you work with an introvert to help them gain that confidence, that strength in the areas where they need to be more powerful, be more forward, but still manage to maintain that authentic self?
I feel like that is what creating this sort of 3D vision board is for, right? I'm an introvert. I'm super introverted. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I really am. And part of what this creating the space involves is making room for, like I said, for who you are becoming. Even as an introvert who is starting up a business, you have to show up with an extroverted face sometimes, like showing up on this video. And so one of those things that you have to create in your space is room for that to happen, right? You have to make room for her to exist. And so whatever that looks like for you, right? Room for your moments of empowerment or whatever that takes to be able to sit in your power and really put on that face, right? The face of your company, and express it to the world. And then, as soon as the record button goes off or whatever, and you can go back behind the scenes again, then, you can go back over to, your desk and behind the scenes, right? And live that. There is a duality in being a business owner, but if you make room for her, right? The face of your company, whatever you want to call it, like Beyonce, right? And her Sasha Fierce, isn't that what she calls her? Her face of her personality when she comes on stage. Well,
Yeah,
you
that
have
used to
that,
be Sasha Fierce. Yeah.
right? You have that too. The face of your company is the face that is um on stage per se, and having to present that extroverted face that you were talking about. And so you just have to make room for her to exist. She doesn't have to exist all the time, but if there's one little space for her to live, it needs to be in your office where your business is.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, we're talking about a lot of like the office, but these work from home entrepreneurs, people who work from home, their office could be randomly the kitchen table one day, an actual office the next day, the living room couch on the third day, because it's wherever they can get. What kind of tips can you give for people to balance that work life? Because I think a lot of the time, introverts specifically, if they don't feel like they get that balance and that opportunity to recharge after doing all that extroverted business, oh, peopling, is what sends them in spiral. So how can you establish those set boundaries for your space? Because it can be all over.
It can. And hopefully you are able to set more boundaries. Moving around, I know that's very common, especially in the early stages of business. I know that was true for me. Right when I first started my company, I was home on bed rest from an injury. And so a lot of times I was working from my bed or the sofa or, wherever I could manage. And then it's just you have to set boundaries around even time, right? This is my office is closed, right? And put that away. Eventually the goal would be to have an office that you can close the door. And hopefully um from a society standpoint, not like but at an individual level, the way things are moving forward, um I think that'll make an impact in how we look for homes to live in, right? Right now, a lot of us are stuck in this moving it around from place to place because we don't have room for it. But I think going for, like if that's a part of it too, right? Going forward to the next place, you have to look for, okay, maybe I need a 2 bedroom or a 3 bedroom, or, I need a bedroom because we don't have dens anymore. Like, when you think back to when we were, at least when I was a kid, all the TV shows that we would watch, everybody had a den. Nobody worked from home, but everybody had a den. And now everybody works from home and nobody has a den. So, like if you get an extra bedroom that you can turn into an office, it's very important. Um, Not just from an energetic standpoint, like from a standpoint of I can close the door and I'm done with work for day. That helps with the balance side of things, right? I don't really believe in work-life balance, because you don't have 2 separate lives. You have one. Some days it looks like, you know, I'm gonna have a work function in the morning and then a doctor's appointment in the afternoon, and those things just have to be accommodated for. being able to close your office and say, I'm done for the day and walk away from it, having an office really lets you do that. It's a little harder when you're just in the living room and have to just sort of box that up. But we all have to start somewhere. And for a lot of us, that's where we start. And I do recommend that. Put away at the end of the day, like pack it up and close the door, close the door on your office like you're going home.
So what I'm hearing so far, some of the tips I'm hearing so far is have a space. Have a space that you can call your workspace. That way you can put them boundaries up. Have Get rid of clutter, things that you don't need. Make that space available for things that you want to be, that who you will be in the future, rather than, okay, well, I'm right here right now. And we hear about this a lot in the law of attraction. I know The Secret covers it, that you go test drive the car that you want to drive. Go do the things that you want to see. So that way you can imagine it, you can bring it into your mindset and see it. But your workspace is just the same. If you see yourself as someone who's successful on video, then set yourself up to be successful on video. So work those things in. But at the same time, we're talking about it's not just things that are around us. It's what's going on in here in our brain. It's how we're feeling. It's our energy. It's all these different parts of us that can attract everything. Because as you were saying, you can't just get rid of things without going through the process, because then you'll end up with 10 times more.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't need these knickknacks anymore. Oh, look at this cute knickknack. Oh, look at this cute knickknack. Gonna get it, gonna get it. What would you say? Because we're talking about introverts. You're an introvert yourself. If you have to give a piece of advice to introverted business owners, what would you give them? What would you tell them was a huge difference for you?
Um, well, I had a lot of trauma around even just being an introvert, right? And I think that's right. I was shy as a little girl and I was teased horribly for being shy. And then on top of that, I had, my own trauma around other stuff. And I think the biggest part of that is working through that and healing it so that I could really sit in an empowered place of I'm comfortable with being an introvert. Um, I don't have to be ashamed of that. And I can show up authentically as who I am and know that that people will find me, right? And I have to make sure and give myself plenty of room to be able to do that, you know?
Absolutely. You have to focus on yourself, your own personal development, your own therapy, your own mindset, your own experiences to move forward. One of the strengths, though, comes from things happening in your past is it can help you unlock your passion for things that you want to do, because you can learn those things that you are good at, those strengths. And I have to agree with you on this, Krystal, that we need to look at being proud of being an introvert. I call it superpowers. Introverts have superpowers. Our extroverted counterparts don't have the same superpowers as us. They have superpowers of their own, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same as ours. And if you don't have both sides, the yin and the yang, so to speak, things don't go well. So you have to lean into those introverted extras that you have, because that really gives you something else to bring to the table. Now, if someone was looking to find you online, how would they do that?
Um, YouTube. YouTube is sort of where I'm hanging out these days. I love it over there. And so I'm just putting out a whole bunch of content to help people design a life they love, a space they love, a business they love. Um, and so that would be the place to find me. Mhm.
Awesome. And what's your channel name?
Well, it'll be Krystal TV.
Krystal TV. Oh, I like that. That's kind of catchy. So you can find Krystal Holm at Krystal TV on YouTube. Look for her tips, her tricks, and everything like that. She's given us some great tips to clear our workspace, clear our minds, start imagining that person that you are going to be. Remember, positive self talk is always key. Just because you're introverted doesn't mean that you're missing anything. In fact, it gives you all the power in the world. We just have to realize it, act on it, and live it. Tell me one thing in the comments, whether it be on social media or in the podcast commentary right now, that you have taken away from this episode. I cannot wait to hear and learn what you heard that made you go, oh, okay, I can do that. Krystal, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're absolutely welcome.